Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you if this game's worth your time and bandwidth. Today's game is Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary Edition. Yep, it's Halo time. Halo Anniversary Edition is available via PC or Xbox, where it's part of that big old Master Chief collection, and as such, it is available via Game Pass. And the game will take you about 6 to 10 hours to get through depending on your difficulty. So what exactly is Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary Edition? Well, it seems stupid to try and summarize it up because it's arguably the reason the Xbox brand still exists, why Xbox Live and console multiplayer exists, and the game post GoldenEye that basically solidified console shooters and the dual stick control scheme, minus that one alien game on the PS1 nobody liked. But what the hell, let's go over it anyway from a 2023 perspective. And this review is just of the single player, y'all know the multiplayer is good. Halo is a first person shooter with a hybrid of both larger open world battlefields and smaller linear combat segments. You play as the Mean Green Machine Master Chief, badass Spartan whose ship is shot down on a massive Halo ring, basically an intergalactic WMD set to nuke the galaxy. Since Chief lives in the galaxy, he decides that he's not really into that, so he and his AI assistant Cortana go off to murder the Covenant before they press the big red button. While light, Halo's story does do enough to keep the game going, paired with some great cinematic cutscenes and an impressive sense of scope. This was an era where voice acting across an entire game was still novel, and Halo goes all in with its dialogue, cutscenes, and large variety of locales to engage with. Shooting feels fantastic, with Chief being limited to 2 weapons at a time as well as 2 different grenade types. The interesting gimmick is both the humans and the Covenants have different weapons, and Chief can pick up either or both based on the situation. Human weapons are generally stronger against fleshy bits, and Covenant weapons are better against shields, meaning it's up to you to decide how to mix and match to optimize strategy. There is also a fair number of BCs to kill, setting up the default roster of most future Halo games. You have the expendable grunts, the shield-wearing elites, batter elites with insta-kill swords, chunky hunters, and the Flood. The Flood are basically a melee swarm race with a few gunners that are not super interesting to fight, so let's move on. Levels, as mentioned, branch between more open experiences with vehicles and light exploration, and linear segments, sometimes with open worlds leading to linear bases before returning to the open world again. This diversity of encounters really keeps Halo interesting, though a lot of the open world parts disappear in the latter half of the game. This Anniversary Edition also bumps up the graphics, though you can switch between new and old at any time, which is pretty cool. There are massive improvements to texture work, though some of the changes do affect the atmosphere of certain scenes, but overall I like the improvements and they make the game look more modern. And honestly, that's the gist of Halo 1. It set the framework for a lot of the franchise's stable features with some fantastic shooting, great weapons, and high production values. So what do I like about Halo Combat Evolved? Well, the shooting still feels fantastic, with Bungie basically nailing this the first time, with every weapon feeling great to shoot, the shotgun being a standout as it has a huge magazine and Chief reloads it at the speed of light. Additionally, that large arsenal of weapons, particularly the difference between human and Covenant weapons, make weapon choices feel deliberate and allow for a lot of player choice. And lastly, the large enemy variety leads to things like target prioritization and picking weapons for each encounter, making every combat encounter against the Covenant very engaging. When it comes to the bad, the Flood, just all of it. The exploders particularly, but whenever they show up, they throw off the pace of the game, are uninteresting to fight, and clog up way too much of this game's runtime. Additionally, the level design breaks down in the latter half of the game, killing the open zones, and instead focusing on linear, very samey hallways that are very easy to get lost or confused in. This is exacerbated by these levels are usually also full of Flood, which just makes them a slog. And lastly, relying on the AI for vehicle segments can be very frustrating, as they generally aren't aggressive enough when gunning and just kind of do whatever they want when they drive. As you know, I rate games here on a 3-point scale: must play, maybe consider, don't bother. I'm going to actually give Halo a maybe consider. It is absolutely a landmark game, especially when compared to other shooters of the era. Its enemy variety, weapon variety, vehicles, and the great feeling of shooting really came together. Unfortunately, a lot of its level design, particularly in the second half, feels really dated and frustrating, and basically anything with the Flood ends up being more of a chore than fun. Halo is still an absolute classic and holds up better than most. It's just the rough edges are even more noticeable now, decades later, than they were when it came out. Regardless if you have any affinity for FPS games, it's still worth playing, especially in co-op. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. What do you think about Halo? Have you played it recently? I want to know if you think it holds up. So please let me know in the comments, but regardless, make sure you go out there and give it a look.